Hello and welcome. This is a short video about one of the applications that I've created for the Microsoft Windows 7 and 10 operating system. I've been writing programs since about 1972 and have always been interested in creating software tools. Some of the tools are just for fun, while some have been of significant interest and assistance to me in my professional career. Some of the tools that I've done are available at my website, www.ripetech.com. The original tool, I suppose, would be a Forth-like interpreter, which I used to call Ripetech, which over the years I've expanded, extended, made it possible to write scripts and embed the scripts inside the Forth interpreter, and in that way create a single standalone executable file. Some of these standalone tools, which I developed based on Forth, I now refer to as being PlodWare. This particular presentation is focused on the tool that I call SQLite Olay. SQLite Olay, it's freeware. It's an executable for Windows 7, Windows 10. It includes an embedded SQLite database engine, which is an open source project, which is run at www.sqlite.org. I have no connection with them except that I'm a user of their freeware or open source software, the SQLite database engine. So I've taken that source and embedded it inside the Forth environment, which is also written in C. And all in all, the C program offers me a Forth interface. The Forth interface has some scripts, quite a lot, which give me a basic interpreter, which include embedded controls, such as the web browser. Offers me then the ability to have OLE, or automation, the ability to control third-party applications which are compatible to OLE. It's also got 64-bit DLL dynamic access. It can, on the fly, create a GUI. It can do a fair bit, and all of that in less than a 4 megabit executable. As I said, I'm using the SQLite database engine. I've included some open source modules which were created for the SQLite as loadable extensions. Extensive use of the Microsoft Windows 32 API, lots of Microsoft controls, well over 30 years of surfing the web to find out how to do things, and sometimes how to do things wrongly. The end product, you could say, is about 75 C language files, about 2.5 million characters, which when all put together give me the Forth-like interpreter with all of these extensions. Forth is normally much smaller. And on top of this Forth environment, there's about 43,000 lines of script, about 1 megabyte of code, just over 1 megabyte of compressed ANSI text, which, when it all put together, gives me PlodWare SQLite Olay, and that includes in that a significant amount of help information and embedded demos inside the executable. In this video, we're going to focus on the PlodWare SQLite Olay, how to download it, install it, trivial, a little bit of font customization, and a brief introduction to the GUI. Right, there's a desktop. Let's call up the browser. Let's go to the website. This is the basic website. We particularly want to go to the PlodWare PC applications, specifically to the SQLite GUI application. There is our executable, 60 approximate help pages, and a download link. So let's do the download. Save to the desktop. Well, save. It's downloaded. Let's have a look at the downloaded zip. You see it's about 2 megabyte as a zip. The zip is opened up on my other screen, so I have to pull it across to have a look at it. There we are, less than 4 megabyte when done. Let's copy it to the desktop. Where you put it doesn't really matter. We can close that. We don't need it anymore. We can close that. We don't need it anymore. And now we can run, or maybe try to run, the executable and see what happens. Yep, we've got the blue screen. Close it. Double right click on the executable. Go to Properties, General, Unblock, Apply, OK. And if all's gone well, when we click on it next time, here it comes. There is our executable. And there is the help information. But what I want to do first is admit I need glasses. I use a 42-inch 4K screen. I play around with font sizes quite a bit, so it's comfortable to read. Sometimes some people have said they find this font a little bit too small. If you have an issue, and we'll assume that you do, we can go straight away to Options, where we can change the font size. And that will be in the current executable. I'll show you, make it font bigger. Not very pretty, because the buttons stay at the original size, only some fields become much larger. What we can do is go to the shortcuts and create a new instance of this executable, but with a larger font. I'll click on that. There is the new executable. There is the old, just for comparison. I'll make the old back to its default font size, and you can see the difference. I tend to use the original, the default. That's font size 14. This is font size 18. There are more customization options available, but for now that should be enough. We do not need the old executable. You can see, however, that each executable has got a caption, and that this one knows that it's the second version. This was the original. I can close this one. You can run as many as you want in parallel. They are independent of one another, except for the name. If you do run multiple versions, it's sometimes nice to go into the command line and use the title command and give the executable. Oh, having problems with my caps lock. And give it a different name. Let's be stupid and call this big font. And that will, when I do an enter, there we are, change the caption for this. So you can keep track of the different versions you're running. Except for the name, they are independent of one another. Let's close this, we don't need it. And this is what we will be playing around with for the rest of the video. There are a number of areas in which you can put information in. The single line command is best given here. If you like to develop text and multiple lines of text, you can do it in this area. I call it the edit field. I'm going to clear the edit field, put in some extras. I'm going to change the title again to something else. And I'm then going to have a command where I want it to give me a message saying, "Hello world." Now, I'm not going to activate this command line. We've used it. I'm going to use this area, and you can treat this as a mini program or a script. Click on Edit or Execute, and this area will be executed. So we should see the font change from the name, the caption, and we should get a hello world message. Hello world, and change of font. And this and here, these two areas, we can put basic commands. I call it basic. It's my version of basic. It's similar in many respects to the Microsoft VBA, Visual Basic for Applications. You can also put in here SQL commands, or I should say SQLite commands, very similar to SQL, but one or two very small differences. If you want to know more about SQLite, go to their website. It's brilliant. The software, the SQLite package, I find also brilliant. And there's an awful lot of online help information. I will not try to duplicate anything about SQL, just the minimum. It's not particularly helpful here looking at the program as far as SQLite is concerned. You can't really see anything about databases. That's where a trick comes in. The program is broken, the GUI is broke down into a number of fields. You can see the slightly darker field here, which I can put the cursor over and it changes. I can then drag and drop the cursor to redistribute screen area. And I can also, down here, there are a choice of screens. We're currently on the help screen. There is a help online, which is a HTML embedded browser command, which takes us to my home site. There is an output field, which I call the report. There's a list of built-in macros to make some tasks easier, mainly orientated towards SQLite or SQL and Excel interworking. An area for you to put your own macros. We'll put that to one side for now. And as far as SQL is concerned, the most useful thing I think is this DB information field. I will click on it. And this is where we will see or can browse through a database and see what databases are connected, what tables are there, do a query, see what columns, and see the query results. Not every SQLite interface is made available by this program, but more than enough, at least to keep me happy. And in the last 6-7 years, this program that I've shown here has been the basis of my daily bread. I think in the year before last, so that would be 2019, I think I wrote around 1,500 different scripts in 180 days on the project I was on, and delivered to around 6,000 recipients, the various outputs, all based on using this program, specifically doing data analysis, which was a bit too complicated or too much for a simple Excel, but was not big enough for the company's IT department to take responsibility for the data processing. They considered it too short-lived, and it was, unfortunately, as far as Excel was concerned, it was too complicated or too difficult to do in a reasonable manner. So I came along with this program based on SQLite, And I've been able to keep employed for the last 6-7 years, and at the end of this week I will formally go into retirement. But I will carry on with this program. Right, let's run through some of that again and get up to the point where we're actually looking at SQL. Call up the executable. Change to the larger font by the shortcut. Create a new instance with a large font. Simply because it's easier to read. Get rid of the small font. Clean up some areas that are only there as a comment. Change to the DB info field. And now we've got these green, sort of dark green fields. Any dark green fields is somewhere you can do a file drag and drop. I have a database already made just to get us going. There it is. It's about 9.5 megabytes. Let's drag and drop the database to the attach database field. And there we are. This is the command that's been run. If we wanted to use a script command, it would be db open memory, because we're only storing it in memory, and that's where the file is from. Here we see the database default database name, main, which is SQL standard. Within that main table, there is a table called raw, only one table. If I click on raw, it will show us the column names. There are 0 to 12, so there are 13 columns, and the first page of data is presented to us here. I'm going to make the thing into a full screen. I'm going to have another look at a page full. A page full would be about 19 rows. We can scroll through the data here. If it's green here, it means we're at the beginning. If it's pink, it means we're at the end. And if it's somewhere in the middle, then it's this funny blue mauve color on both sides. These are the column names. You can scroll left and right. This is actually a list of files that I have under a particular subdirectory. It was created for me by a macro. We'll have a look at the macro later because it's fairly useful for some things. But what I wanted to show you now is some of the abilities of this program, one of which is the interface with Excel. So I'm going to make space on the screen so we can see if anything's happening to Excel. We've got data, about 10 rows of data. I can go in here, Excel. If you don't have an installed Excel, then sorry, this won't work. If you do have Excel, this will create an instance and talk to that Excel, not via the file, but via the OLE interface. So I'll click and I'll say to it, please write the current list view to Excel. So it'll create an Excel instance, write the data to it, 10 rows. It's not particularly well formatted. It's just dumped to the Excel file. I have a macro, which you can, if you want, modify, which I use to format the data to a way that I found my customer was happy enough with. So under shortcuts, there is a Excel table format macro. Technically, it's a function. If I click on it, it will go into internal values, find out how many rows and columns there are, the name of the current Excel file, and then it'll go there and format it to my standard. Let's click it and see. Not particularly clever, but it's formatted the data to a standard, whatever that may be. I like to have a dark or a light grey column row, a column header. I like to have the column names in bold. I've centralized all the text. That's enough for now. So if I wanted to, I can now use non-SQL. The current Excel is known as EXL. And I can use OLE commands to, let's say, change the name of this sheet. I can never remember the command if it's active sheet dot name. Make it hello. Let's see if I've remembered the command. Yes, there it is, hello. So that's an example of where we've taken a database, exported some of the information to Excel, and then used if you're into Visual Basic for applications and writing macros, you should recognize that format. That's a standard format for a VBA command to change the name of the current Excel's active sheet file name. I could still interactively come in here, change the sheet to a different sheet, and say I would like to export everything. Everything that is in here isn't the list view. The list view is only what you can currently see. To write everything that's in there, you'd say write the filtered SQL. I'll click. It's now going to write almost 40,000 lines. Didn't take too long. And again, I can run the formatting program under shortcuts. Have I clicked? Or have I missed? Click. No. And it's formatting the 39,000 lines. Right. In the other direction, I could turn around and say, I wish I had this information in a table. So if I had an Excel file, I would open it in Excel, and I can then import that data. So let's make it a little bit different. Let's get rid of a column. The tags. Oh no, let's get rid of the hash column. Right. Now we will give this a default name to be, instead of sheet, let's call it short, because we've shortened the data. Go back to the program and say in Excel, I would like to read the current worksheet. It's done it. It's added it to the current database, and now I've got a table called short. Click. And if I go across to here, there should, instead of being 13, there should be 12. Yep. And the hash file, the hash column, which should have been number 11, is gone. Not bad. It might not be quite what everybody wants. One of the things I do find is that when I come into Excel, if I do happen to have, let's set the, what do they call it? The filters on the column header active. If you click on a filter, you can see the different values. Sorry, I can't easily change the size, but those are the different values. I can do something similar in my database. I go into, I'll make it full screen. I pick the column I'm interested in. In this case, it was the extension Ext. I right click with the mouse, and it shows me 36 different values. And this is how often the values have occurred. I know there should be in total 39,143 different values. So there must be something in here that's happening a lot. And it's JPEG, JPG, and JPG. if I wanted to, I can now use this as a filter on the data. I can say, I only want to see, let me see, switch everything off. I only want to see bitmaps and DB3s. And now my data is reduced to only those. So it's a form of simple query or filter, a where command. This is the command that's actually running. It looks a bit complex. It is partly because I have to have a background table to remember what filters I'm running. So it makes a query inside a query. You see a select statement and a select with a sub-select. It works. You don't need to worry about it. If you don't want, don't use it. If you decide that that filter goes yellow to the column header to show that there is an active filter, I can right-click on it again and remove the filters on this column. And you can do filters if you want it on 2 columns. Let's go back in and say I'm interested in 3GP and anything that's, well, what do we got? No, probably not a very good choice. Anything that's got a 0 at the end. You can do it the hard way. So there is another sort of browsing trick. Let's reset everything. You can reset simply by doing a new query. You can resort to a mixture of half a database command in the sense of typing and half browsing. You can put here a where query. We're going to go into the raw table and say we're interested in it where the extension is like JPG. Make this active. It doesn't do anything yet, but the next time we click on a column, a table, it will automatically add this into the command. So let's click on raw, and it now only shows us, I believe, extensions like JPG. Yes, and you can make it more complicated. You can say and path is like what should we have? BW, black and white. Click. Now we've reduced this raw according to this where command. That's a mixture of the command line level and the browser level. Browsing is great, but if you really want to work with SQL, then you've got to start writing commands. And we'll look at that in a minute, but we'll just for now take a little screen break. Here we go again. Now we're going to look at SQL at the command line level. I've stopped this where. Let's clean it out. There are 2 places where you can write an SQL command, well, 3 actually. You can do individual commands here, such as select star from raw limit 4, enter. Or you can write multiple commands in this area. I call it the edit area or edit field. Let's copy that command. That'll be an SQL command. Now we'll use the basic, or my basic message to say we've done something. step 1. And then after that we'll do create table. What should we call it? We had JPGs. We'll call it create table BW for black white as select star from raw where path is like, I'm sorry for the clicking of the keyboard, it's a bit loud, is like BW, and then we will export the data. No, let's go slowly. Let's do these 3 things and then a message equals done. Right. So let's run it. It's done step 1, displayed 4, click, and it'll then create, we'll see here a BW table being created, done, and now I've got BW, which is 435 rows, and all of them will have BW somewhere in the name. If I wanted to save all of this, I have a choice. My program remembers where the original file was here, and if I do a simple save, don't forget we're in memory only at the moment, if I do a simple save, it'll save all of this content in that location. Or I can do a save as and put it somewhere else. I can control that here from File, Save, Save As, or just save a copy of what we've got. Let's do a save as. We'll put it on the desktop and we'll call it my DB1. There we are. We can put more than one database in here. I think technically it's called a schema. Let's get rid of this. Here's my DB1, here's my original content. Let's reload the original content as a table and add it in here. So I'm going to simply drag it once more, catch, attach, and it automatically notices that this table is new. The very first new table is given by default by me, but in my program, the schema name new. And what's important to remember is that main and temp are both in memory. Anything that's added that isn't main or temp is always disk backed. So any change we do to this database only has one table. Anything we change in there will go automatically to disk. If you don't want, you can remove this. The command is detach the database, and it's gone. Main, temp. Temp is where I keep this table that I mentioned, which I have to have for internal purposes, to keep track of how many fields I'm looking at and what filtering I've applied. You can, if you click on right click, there's also the ability to copy the text main to the where command. Sometimes it's useful if you're a lazy monkey like me. Copy main to where, and that brings the text main into this field where I can pick it up and do something with it. Or I can copy the tables, all the tables in this database to another database. In this case, it knows it's only got one other. It's called temp. Let's bring that back in. If I was now to right click on there and say copy all tables to another database, I'll have to look at that. It should have said new as well. Something for me to look at later. That was not successful. My logic is wrong. I'll look at it again later. I'll tidy up for now. If I click on a table, a database name, it shows me the content inside there. And here I can also right click on things, copy a table, copy this short table to the temp database, or copy the text short to where, or send the table to Excel, or drop the table. So let's drop the table. It's a database command. Drop table. Database is gone. Sorry, BW is gone. Let's get rid of short. Drop table. Short is gone. Raw is still there. We're still in memory, so the original file is untouched. If I decide, oh, I've screwed up what I wanted to do here, I wish I could go back to this my DB1. The answer is yes, you can, because everything we've done is in memory. To reload it for you, you don't have to copy it all again. You can just go into File, Reload, and it'll automatically get that file and bring it back. Proceed without saving the current data, yes. Okay, there's our data, our 3 files. That's the sort of playing around you can do. What I want to do now is use a demo, so let's take a little break. And here we go again. Let's tidy up. Let's get rid of the database. Database close. It'll ask for confirmation. Yes. Now let's have a look at full screen. Go into help. Right, now let's go looking for a simple little demo with SQL. Create a simple table. This is the help field. We can copy this help field if we want up to the edit area and play around with it, change it, and then execute it. We can press on the control button and the mouse wheel and make the script a little bit bigger. See what it's doing. It's a mixture of basic commands, if then else. dbopen is a basic command that accesses parts of SQL and says, is there a database open? If there is, then don't run, on the basis of we don't want to delete an existing database. We want to give the user a chance to close it. New script is the command that says throw everything away that's been defined by the user and start fresh. dbopen, the parameter memory as a string, says create an open database in memory only. Then there are some pure SQL commands. Let's execute it. Oh, and dbinfo is a basic command that says please arrange that the dbinfo panel is visible. So let's run it. There is the main database with the table family. Click on family. We can then see that it's got 1, 2, 3, 4 columns: role, age, id, and pick. There's a text, an integer, a text, and a binary large object. And because we've clicked on it and there's data, then it shows us the data. In this case, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows: father, mother, daughter, son, grandfather. Let's go back to the definition. Father, mother, daughter, son, grandfather. Not a very complicated demo, and what we can of course do if we want is send everything to Excel or to a common separated variable if you wanted to. Haven't tried that in a while. Write the results of the last query to a CSV, send it to the desktop and call it output 01. You can't save this to this PC, that's not a proper location. I should have gone to the desktop. Output 01, save, call up the desktop, get the most recent, sorry, I'm playing around with multiple screens again. The most recent, there is output CSV, and there is the output file. And you can read and write CSVs and Excel. Right? There is the command that actually says write to this file a query, and the query is that. It's actually a subset of this line here. Right, that's enough from there. Let's tidy up. Close the database and take a little break. And away we go. I think next I'd like to discuss some of the help facilities that's available for SQL, in particular the help for the SQL macros. That's commands which have been written by me to make SQL a bit more easy to use. In order to do that, let's go into the command line and use the help command. The help command is a function. It takes a single parameter, a string, as its argument, and it will automatically do a sort of wildcard search. Now, nearly all of the database related commands that are macros I've written have got DB in the name. So if I do help thinking in German, help open brackets and then quotation marks DB quotation marks, close the brackets. That will give us a help command and say find all the help you can for any command with the name or the letters DB in it. And the results will go into the help field. So let's give the command. And go into the help field. And you'll see line upon line. I won't go into the various commands. There's all sorts of weird and wonderfuls. I would like to touch on one which is being used already. We had a ready-made database that we used earlier on in this video where there was a file list, and I'd just like to show you how to do the file list. I'm going to cheat a little bit, but let's see. The command is db something. There it is. db file list. It needs an open database, so we'll create a database in memory. I've already prepared the command. It doesn't matter whether it's capital or lower or mixed as you like. The basic interpreter is not case sensitive. The parameters. The first one is the database alias. That means this name here that we're going to put the table into. Then we need to give a name for the table itself. Well, the default is my table. Then we need a string expression which gives us the folder where we're to do the database, the file search from. It's a text string, so it's in double quotes. I'll make it a bit bigger because there's something important to notice. In VBA, I think you have to give this character must always be given twice. In my program, you only have to give it twice if the character coming afterwards is a problem character. That's a problem character that needs escaping, so I have to give that twice. There, it's not necessary, but it's ignored if it's given. So I'm going to go to that location. It's a subdirectory under the desktop. -1 means recursively search from this location downwards forever. Then should be an empty parameter, which would normally be, you could do a file expression and say limit it to only JPGs or whatever you wanted to do. I don't want to limit it. And then you could give a hash. And in this case, I'd be saying to it, please do a MD5 hash of each file as you go along and save the results. Now, if I do a hash, it'll take, I've just tested it a few minutes ago, it'll take 5 minutes exactly to do this command. So I'm not going to do it for now. I'm just going to do the bare minimum. It's 39,000 results, if I remember correctly. Let's run it. When it starts running, this area should go sort of maroon blue, and when it's finished, it should go green again. If it goes red, something's gone wrong. So execute this command sequence. Only one command in there, doesn't matter. Finished. Let's have a look in the database. Main, my table, 39,200. There's no, the hash has not been given. I said I did this command a few minutes ago on another instance. I will quickly fetch it, load it. Sorry about the size of the screen. Sorry, that's not the instance I meant to fetch. That's the original. This is the one I was after, where I ran the command. But in this particular case, when I ran the command, first of all, let's look at the result. There's my 39227. There is my hash, MD5 hash checksum per file. And in that particular case, I had written this script that says empty the report field, write into the report field start at and the actual time, run the command, and when you've finished, go to the report field and say stop at time. So let's have a look at the report field. There we've got a time of 4 minutes, well, just under 5 minutes. And that was to do almost 40,000 files. It works out at 130 point something per second. Better than a poke in the eye with a sharp stick. If you had to do that by hand, you'd be here for quite a while. So that's an example of where there's a mixture of a database command with a Visual Basic. Let's get back to our demo. Where's my mouse? There it is. And that's what we did. So, the other thing that's worth mentioning, which we haven't really covered, I will mention it here, but not much more. It is possible to write a command, a mixture of database and basic, which says do a query, and then for each row of the result, extract a particular field and pass that value in that field into the basic program. That's done using the with query. I'll just empty everything. There is an example under help, demos with query. this should be familiar to you by now. Here's the good old family database. I'm going to copy it to the edit field so I can go in and break it down a little bit for you. This is the with query construct. With query, do this query, however complicated you want to make it. It only fetches one column back. And then it says, with the query result, WQ means with query, get a text version of the first column that's come back. Well, the first column that comes back is role. So it'll extract the role from each row where age is less than 41. We know that should be for 41, daughter and son. And then write the role into a text field, my text. This means do the next, get the next row, get the next row, and it'll loop and loop and loop until there's no more result rows. And then message, display my text, and a title to the message box called Junior Family Members. Let's run it and see what happens. Edit, execute. Junior Family Members has become the title of the box. Positions that are younger than 41 are daughter and son. So that's a way to extract information from the database and get it into Visual Basic. You can turn it around and take information from from my Basic. You can turn it around and take a value from Basic and feed it into the database. I'll do that ever so quickly. Let's, if I remember correctly, I'll use that row, well, that line. Let's clear the field. That's what family looks like. Let's create a string, dimension, my string equals insert into family values. Can never remember the syntax. Insert values. Right. We're not going to give it all the values. We're only going to give it a role. So we have to say insert into family into the column row. It's a database identifier. Role is a proper name of a database element, so it should be in double quotes. And the value that we'd like to put in there will be chief cook and bottle washer. If I just run that, it'll create the string. A little bit of an error. Oh yes, of course, it doesn't like this character inside a string. It needs to be escaped. And of course the string needs to be terminated. We've already created my string, now we've just got to populate it properly. Oh, still got it wrong. What have I done wrong? My string equals insert into quote quote values quote quote quote. I've missed the. There, that'll work. I can print or display my string. Message equals what's in my string. Insert into families, roles, chief bottle. Okay, that might work. Now we can send this string as a command to SQL, and the command for that is SQL equals whatever the string's name is, my string. Now we have a look at family, And now we've got a new row called with the row chief cook and bottle washer. So that's a very simple example. We got into a bit of a mess, or I got into a bit of a mess, because all of these characters that have to be escaped. I have a trick to get around that. It's my own idea, which I haven't seen in another program, and that is any line starting with this will be written into a string. I'll show you what I mean, and then we'll try it out. I can take my text. I don't need these escape characters, so I can actually put what I want in here. The line's not finished, but I don't want to make the line too long. So if I use a double, then it appends text to the end of this line. And what I'm going to append is this. Without the escape characters. So when I do that, the text will automatically be written into a variable, and the variable is called free string. So once I've done that, message equals free string. Let's see what's inside there. Execute. Insert into family values. And I find using this approach much easier than having to remember to escape characters and the like. It does mean that the variable name, free string, is a reserved word. And again, once I've got free string, let's take free string and submit it to SQL. And now we've got, let's move that up a little bit. We've got two rows with the role chief cook and bottle washer. Right, I think that's pretty much enough just to show the beginning. We've spent, I think, must be about an hour to get this far. There is an awful lot more. There's a lot of commands. We haven't looked at some of the options for Excel, or some of the options for common separated variable files. And within SQL itself, there's a few options, like the like operator in my system defaults to be case sensitive. Do I mean that? Sorry, to be not case sensitive. That would be case sensitive. I default to not case sensitive. There's all sorts of extra little things to add in if you decide you wanted to have Excel names similar to Excel in the column headers. There's an option to allow you to say give columns an Excel style identity. So that's column A, B, C, D. You can have a row number automatically put in if you want. Give rows a number. There's all sorts of extras. But I think we can safely say for now that's enough. If you want more, by all means contact me, or look for another video from me which goes into a bit more depth about SQL. Having said that, all that remains is for me to say it's time to fade away.